Next up, we've got a great topic, one I can really connect to. It's a noob's journey into game development. I've only been at it 30 years, so I'm pretty fresh. Our next speaker, I think, is pretty fresh to it as well, but I think has some super exciting and interesting things to say. So please give a warm welcome to Kathy Shin from ABK, a little company you may have heard of.
All right, testing. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. So, hello everybody. It's very wonderful to be here at Pocket Game Connects. I've been living in Seattle for the past 5 years, so very excited to be back here in the middle of a heat wave. So kind of unusual for May, but my name is Kathy, and it's my first time speaking in public in front of a lot of people. You'll get what I'm talking about later, but thank you so much for having me here. I'm very excited. I also work in mobile gaming as well, so I'm looking forward to some of the talks here. Real quick about myself, I am an avid gamer working in the publishing industry over at Activision Blizzard King. So I help to manage all of our technical mobile partnerships with popular IP that you might know, such as Call of Duty and Candy Crush, Hearthstone, Diablo Immortal, as well as working on any other new games that we have coming up. But my talk here is going to be about my journey navigating throughout this gaming industry to how I ended up working here at ABK. I just kind of hope it provides some insight for those who are trying to get their foot in the industry, or if you have any friends or family members who are interested in trying to approach here as well. So my journey was a little bit haphazard, so it's going to be all over the place. I graduated with a degree I didn't really know what to do with. I kept doing a bunch of random different jobs, volunteered for all sorts of projects, and I even ended up playing some competitive video games for money, of which I'll talk about as well. But this all started off during my years in college. I happened to be near many events that were happening at the time. So I was born and raised in Southern California, and around that time, there were a lot of events happening, such as StarCraft 2 tournaments. So if you're not familiar with StarCraft, real quick, that's a real-time strategy game where you basically play or command space battles. And there were a lot of those events happening down in SoCal. So this was around, I think, 2012 at the time. But basically, I would attend my college classes during the day, and then during at night, I would go to these live production events where they're having these like giant virtual game tournaments at stadiums. So that was very exciting to just Uber over to or something, if Uber was around back then. But over there, I met all sorts of people who had traveled from all over the world. So this was super exciting to me because I was very young. I never met all these people from Europe before, and they had come over here to compete and to just spectate the games, just be here for fun and just watch all the video games happen on the big screen. So this really introduced me to a budding new industry at the time, which was esports gaming and how modern day gaming was going to turn about. During this time, I also picked up streaming video games. So if you're familiar with Twitch, it is a streaming platform, but first used to be just in TV back then. So people would just share their everyday experiences over their laptop webcams on the internet and just talk to all sorts of strangers from the internet. And this was a very fun experience to share with a community of like-minded folks. Of course, you have some trolls and some weird people online, but as long as you block them and just move on and just focus on what you want to share to the public, it became a really exciting platform to use. So this eventually turned into playing video games when Justin rebranded to Twitch.tv, and that was a more gaming-oriented streaming platform. So pivoting into this opened many opportunities for me. I met a lot of people from events, I met a lot of people online from my streaming channel, and it was a bunch of brand building, basically, where I turned my love of StarCraft 2. I played a ton of it, and I started to share that with strangers online through my Twitch channel. There were also other events, like more of the tournaments and local meetups like Barcrafts happening, where you guys would all just meet up at a bar and just watch StarCraft together on the screen. And these events really built a lot of relationships I have to this day just because of a video game. And for resumes, like running a streaming channel or any other hobby and project you can talk about and make sense with, can go really good on that. But of course, everything wasn't super clear. I was also working in restaurants, I was a waitress, I was also in retail doing customer service. Over here in Washington, I used to work at the Microsoft stores when they were still around. And those were like the same thing as the Apple stores. They had services and products and stuff. So I was on the floor associate selling all this hardware. And this was a really great introduction for me because customer service roles are really great experience, even though they may not be directly related to gaming, but you get to talk to all sorts of people. Like every single day, you're basically pitching either, well, in my experience, I was pitching food, product, or software. In retail, back at the Microsoft store, I learned so much about platform economies, live game services, cloud tech, and I became very aware of all the tech companies around me. Being in Washington at the time, I became very cognizant that Amazon was close by and there was Microsoft over in Redmond. Because I was located so close to HQ, a lot of the executives and teams would come over from the company to run tests or talk to people to get feedback, so it was a really great way to network as well. For my next steps after the stores, I started working at Minecraft, if you're familiar, where I started super entry level, working in the support team. So basically, if you're playing Minecraft and you have issues with your account or you see a game bug, you type up that email, send it to support, and then I might be the one grabbing a ticket and working on that. And I found this role over from when a recruiter had contacted me on LinkedIn because he liked my experience in streaming and that I had lived in Washington as well. So always make sure that your profile is up to date with all the projects that you've done and put any keywords for anything that you're looking for, just so that this can come out of nowhere. So I was very lucky in that regard. But Minecraft was a super interesting look for me in behind the scenes of gaming because I was still a streamer at the time. I was kind of pivoting away from that because I had made enough from my channel to pay for my rent and to pay for food, but savings wise it wasn't really feasible long term. It's very tiring to play StarCraft for 10 hours every single day just so you can pay rent. So I was hungry for other things too. So I wanted to go more into the industry. So I got promoted at Minecraft several times for leading projects. When I was approached by Activision Blizzard King, again, this was through LinkedIn, and I had actually ignored this message because I thought they didn't even read my profiles. Like, what is this? I don't think I can get this. But eventually I replied. I wanted to meet the recruiter and see what they were looking for, so maybe that's something I could work towards. In the end, I went through several interviews, and a couple months later, moved down to California to work with the game mobile teams over here. So working these roles kind of teach you a lot about the language, work styles, and goals of these teams and their companies. So some things I recommend to those who are still navigating through the industry is to reach out to your network, your friends, utilize your social media to see if you can connect with people who have the job that maybe you're looking for, or that might be the next steps. Don't be discouraged if you don't see a response. Please be respectful of people's times. If they're not responding to you, don't take it personally. I think people are busy or they're just not interested, and that's okay. So try to run your bios, whatever you want to talk about with your friends for any sanity checks before you approach people. I've learned from my own experience, people are super open to sharing what their insight and their journey in the industry, so I can kind of connect it back to my own and see where I want to go next. So I've learned so much from really seasoned folks here. So my takeaways to you guys are to feel free to reach out to those who work what you want to do. Introduce yourself politely. See if they have any time for this chat, a one-on-one. Get a call over Zoom. Meet up in person for coffee so they can give insight on what's going on. That way you know like what goals you need to work towards, what projects you need to take to put on your resume. And while you're doing this, you can do all sorts of other side projects as well. For me, it was streaming and running my brand channel. It was fun to kind of create all sorts of content for it. Like maybe I could host things like a video game format, have a collaboration with my other streamer friends. There's also a ton of events, especially along the West Coast. You have like PAX, you have tournaments for fighting games. I think, what else? Call of Duty, all sorts of stuff. So use those opportunities to like reach out to people and to kind of network with peers. You can be really creative with this. What experience you have, definitely put on your resume. Make sure that it kind of makes sense to people. I remember in my past interview when I went to this company, I had to talk, well, I didn't have to, but I definitely brought up StarCraft 2. And that was really amazing for me to share something like that, because before I knew, but I didn't think I wanted to work in the gaming industry. My family was super into the fashion industry at that time. I think their expectations for me were to get into that, but I just kept getting drawn back and back over to gaming. So I've glossed over much, but let's see, how are we on time?
9 minutes.
I've got a lot of time. I've glossed over much, but I can expand upon anything. Feel free to ask me any questions about my streaming experience, working in retail, just kind of starting over from scratch to get to where I was at. My journey was all over the place. I really didn't have a plan. I had to take a lot of questionnaires and be like, is this something that I want to continue to do? But the great thing about gaming is people are super welcoming and accepting. You don't have to like dress up in, business formal suits or anything. Wear something nice, but then they don't have these high expectations. They really expect the passion, authenticity to coming to work. So yeah, I'm gonna open up the floor if anyone has any questions. If not, we can just cut it short.
So,
Sorry? Oh, they're going to say something.
Now that you're in the industry,
Yeah.
what are you finding as a relatively new entrant to the industry as the hardest things about working in the industry? What really challenges you, pushes you? What's difficult about being in there for you?
In that already having resilience is kind of tough enough. When you present like a project, or if there's something that you want to work on, expect to repeat it many, many times to many different people, and sometimes the same people. It can be really frustrating, and I've seen a lot of really talented people just kind of give up already. In that case, please try to be encouraging, just say one more shot. But just having that resilience is super important for people entering the industry. Yeah.
First of all, you should be so proud of yourself. What a wonderful talk is like
Thank you.
public speaking experience.
Appreciate it.
Amazing. My question is for those in gaming who are looking at really improving their profile and building their brand either on LinkedIn or other social media, but are not streamers. They don't have gameplay, footage to share with others and to build around that. Like, what kind of content would you recommend that they focus on?
I think first of all, focus on what makes you happy. I know a lot of streamers in the industry who are like, I don't want to play this game anymore, but they keep doing it because it's got to pay the bills. So really align with what makes you happy. Kind of work on how you're going to present yourself to people or package what kind of content, because I know people who can be competitors and that's it. They're just there to analyze at a high level. They're just going to play the tournament games, but there's others who are not as good, but they use that time instead of practicing. Maybe they're being educators. It's really, so yeah, as long as you kind of have a focus on what you want to present yourself as and you're happy with it, then I think that's something you should work on. Nice to meet you, by the way. Hi.
Hi. So I know you mentioned earlier LinkedIn was a good way that you got noticed by recruiters. You mentioned keywords. what are the biggest tips you could give out for LinkedIn improvement to help get noticed by recruiters?
I would say decide on the job title you want. It can be specific, like I was thinking, I could be like a project manager in gaming. So using that, find other people out there. It's kind of snooping, but you're not bothering them. You're like, it's in the public. So it kind of shows you what sort of words they're using to describe their projects and their past experiences. The way I looked at it for LinkedIn, I feel like I'm not a recruiter, but I just feel like they're looking for specific words to hit where they pull these resumes out and they'll actually approach you. Like the past 2 jobs, I was not reaching out to them, but they just popped up as messages. But that's because I kept my LinkedIn up to date, always made sure, like, even from other job postings I've seen, I'm like, that's a really great line. That's actually what I'm doing. They just described it better, so I'll reformat it as such. One past story on that was Amazon approached me too. I did not reach out to them, but they said, hey, there's this really cool job you should check out. Let me interview you. And I was super excited. They ended up rejecting me, but I was like, I really like the idea of this job. That's why I responded. So I kind of got the bare bones of that and then pitched it to my manager at Minecraft at the time. And I said, what if we have a job at Minecraft that does this? And they really liked it, so they promoted me into that. So keywords are super important. Don't reuse them from the job listings from LinkedIn. Yeah. Hope that answers your question. Yes? Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, great. I've also done a lot of customer service restaurant industry stuff as well. But I find myself confused as to how exactly to pivot some of those roles and responsibilities into the gaming industry. So did you use those on your resume as keywords, or did you find that you were kind of shying away from trying to be like, yes, I was a shift supervisor as a nurse, which was a role that I had?
Yeah, I had to edit out a lot because when you send out these resumes, people recommend one-pagers. You can definitely go more, but I feel like I approach this with these recruiters that have so much limited time. They see the same things over and over again. It blurs. Give them a one-pager. Give them a big summary of who you are. If you're applying for a gaming job, you don't have to talk about your past 10 years of restaurant experience.
So you did use restaurant?
I put one blurb just to show them I did have customer service experience. I was changing from another industry, just to give them an example of my background, because that was still an important part of my life.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yes?
Are you approached by developers and other people that are, if you have an audience, a Twitch audience already, do they you're approached by people saying like review our games or do things like that, or?
Yeah, they approached me online through my social media. Especially when I'm at PAX, I get a lot of people who want me to showcase their games to my channel. It's a little difficult for me because all I do is play StarCraft. So if you take that genre, intense, real-time strategy games, that doesn't really pair well with a gentle puzzle game. So I can kind of play whatever I want because my brand is more like, I'm just a gamer. I just play these games. I don't have to play StarCraft, but some content creators have to be really cognizant of that. So yeah, that's where I do get approached, like the live events and online social media.
One more question.
Yes.
No, we can take one more.
Oh, one more question, if anyone's got anything. Yes?
Are you disappointed that you're missing out on all the chess boxing matches streamers are doing lately?
The what matches?
I said chess boxing.
Chess boxing.
And, influencer boxing.
Oh, wow.
Is
Yeah,
that something you
it's
do?
very creative these days. Well, thank you, everybody.